The tragic case of April Tinsley is one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in American true crime history. For over 3 decades, the brutal abduction, rape, and murder of the 8-year-old girl from Fort Wayne, Indiana, remained a cold case that tormented her family and the community. Despite numerous leads, a chilling message left by the killer, and advances in forensic technology, the perpetrator evaded justice until 2018. This case highlights the resilience of law enforcement, the power of forensic genealogy, and the enduring pain of a family seeking closure. Below, we delve into the details of April Tinsley's story, exploring the investigation, the breakthroughs, and the eventual capture of her killer.
On April 1, 1988, 8-year-old April Tinsley left her friend's house in Fort Wayne, Indiana, to retrieve her umbrella. It was a seemingly ordinary day, but it would end in tragedy. When April failed to return home, her mother, Janet Tinsley, grew frantic and contacted the police. The community rallied together, launching a massive search involving 250 police officers and 50 volunteers. Despite their efforts, there was no sign of the young girl. Three days later, on April 5, 1988, a jogger made a grim discovery in a rural ditch near Spencerville, Indiana. April's body was found just 20 miles from her home. Near her remains, investigators found one of her shoes and a shopping bag containing a sex toy. The scene was chilling, and the autopsy revealed the horrifying truth. April had been raped and strangled to death. The pathologist estimated that April had been dead for 1 or 2 days before her body was discovered. Evidence suggested her body had been placed in the ditch just 4 hours before it was found. The brutality of the crime shocked the community and left April's family in unimaginable pain. A witness came forward, claiming to have seen a white man in his 30s forcing the girl into a blue pickup truck on the day April disappeared. Police used this description to create a composite sketch of the suspect, but initial leads failed to produce any concrete results. The case quickly grew cold, leaving investigators frustrated and the community on edge. In the aftermath of the murder, 2 local radio stations established a reward fund to help solve the case. April's funeral was held at Faith United Methodist Church, and she was buried in Green Lawn Memorial Park. The tragedy inspired the formation of a Per Ioleo, a volunteer group dedicated to preventing child abductions and assisting law enforcement in similar cases. Despite these efforts, the killer remained at large. The case became one of Indiana's most notorious unsolved crimes, haunting the Tinsley family and the Fort Wayne community. For years, it seemed as though April's murderer would never be brought to justice. Then, in 1990, a chilling development reignited the investigation. A message was found scrawled on the side of a barn in St. Joseph Township. Written in crayon, it read, "I kill 8-year-old April M. Tinsley. And did you find the other shoe? Haha, I will kill again." The message was accompanied by a used condom, which forensic testing confirmed matched the DNA from the crime scene. The killer's taunts were a direct challenge to law enforcement, but despite this brazen act, the perpetrator's identity remained a mystery. The case continued to baffle investigators, and over the years, it became a cold case with little hope of resolution. However, the Tinsley family never gave up hope. They continued to push for answers, and their perseverance would eventually pay off. Advances in forensic technology would later provide the breakthrough needed to solve the case, but it would take decades of waiting and heartache. April's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the vulnerability of children and the devastating impact of violent crime. Her memory lives on in the efforts of those who worked tirelessly to bring her killer to justice, and in the hearts of those who loved her. Two years after April Tinsley's murder, a chilling message appeared on a barn in St. Joseph Township. Written in crayon, it read, "I kill 8-year-old April M. Tinsley, and did you find the other shoe? Haha, I will kill again." The message was accompanied by a used condom, which forensic testing confirmed matched the DNA from the crime scene. The killer was taunting police, and the community was terrified. The brazen act suggested that the perpetrator was still in the area and felt confident enough to mock law enforcement. Despite this new evidence, investigators were unable to identify the suspect. The case grew colder, and the killer's identity remained a mystery. In 2004, the killer resurfaced, leaving 4 notes in the Fort Wayne area. 3 of the notes were placed on girls' bicycles, and 1 was left in a mailbox. The notes, filled with spelling errors, threatened further violence and claimed responsibility for April's murder. One note read, "Hi honey, I've been watching you. I am the same person that kidnapped and raped and killed April Tinsley. You are my next victim." Forensic testing confirmed that the DNA from the condoms left with the notes matched the suspect's profile. Despite this breakthrough, investigators were still unable to identify the perpetrator. The case seemed hopeless, and the community lived in fear that the killer would strike again. For years, the case remained stagnant. Investigators pursued numerous leads, but none panned out. The Tinsley family continued to seek justice, but as time passed, it seemed less and less likely that the killer would ever be caught. Then, in 2018, a breakthrough came in the form of forensic genealogy. Police sent DNA samples from the crime scene to Parabon Nanolabs, which used the genealogy website GEDmatch to identify potential relatives of the suspect. This innovative technique narrowed the search down to 2 brothers, one of whom was 59-year-old John D. Miller. Miller, a reclusive man living in Greville, Indiana, quickly became the prime suspect. Police collected DNA from his trash, which matched the evidence from the crime scene. On July 15, 2018, detectives approached Miller at his home and brought him in for questioning. During the interview, Miller confessed to abducting, raping, and murdering April Tinsley. He admitted to choking her to death in his trailer and disposing of her body in the ditch where she was found. His confession brought an end to a 30-year mystery and finally provided closure for April's family. In December 2018, Miller pleaded guilty to the charges and was sentenced to 80 years in prison. The Tinsley family expressed relief that justice had finally been served, though the pain of losing April would never fully heal. The case of April Tinsley is a testament to the power of perseverance and modern technology in solving even the most elusive crimes. Her memory lives on as a reminder of the importance of justice and the enduring strength of those who seek it.
All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into a case that I know a lot of you are probably familiar with. It's the April Tinsley case out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's pretty well-known case, spanned decades, and we're going to kind of go through the twists and turns of the investigation and how technology kind of caught up with the killer in this case, and really the lasting impact that it had on the community.
Yeah, this case is really, I think, a paragon of an example of how, despite the darkness that surrounds a case like this, that the pursuit of justice and, the advancements in forensic technology and science can really provide those much-needed answers.
Yeah. So let's go back to 1988. April 1st, 1988. It was just an ordinary spring day. 8-year-old April Tinsley was walking home from a friend's house, and she needed to grab her umbrella, so she headed out alone, and she never made it back. So a massive search was launched. 250 officers, 50 volunteers were looking for April, and then 3 days later, a jogger makes a horrific discovery.
Right. April's body was found about 20 miles from her home. She had been sexually assaulted. She'd been strangled. And they found a single shoe and a shopping bag containing a sex toy near her body.
So right away, that suggests that this was premeditated.
Right.
This wasn't something that, was a crime of opportunity.
Right.
And there was also a witness. A witness reported seeing a girl being forced into a blue pickup truck driven by a white male in his 30s. So initially, that kind of fueled the investigation, right? They had a potential suspect description.
Yeah, you would think so.
But it ultimately led nowhere.
Right. It's like one of those things where you think you have a really solid lead and it just kind of fizzles out. And for 2 years, the case remained unsolved. And during those 2 years, the community really rallied around the case. They created a reward fund. They held April's funeral. And they actually formed a group called April, dedicated to child abduction prevention.
Wow.
But still, the killer remained at large.
And then in 1990, he reappears, but not with a physical attack, more of a psychological attack.
Right. It's almost as if he wanted to be found, but only on his own terms.
It's very creepy.
Yeah, it's a very deliberate act of terror. I mean, can you imagine the fear that gripped the community?
Yeah.
When this message scrawled in, crayon appeared on a barn. It boasted about April's murder, and it threatened more killings.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the message itself is terrifying. I kill 8-year-old April M. Tinsley. Did you find the other shoe? Haha, I will kill again. And along with the message, there was also a used condom.
And this is where the story takes a turn. The DNA from the condom matched the DNA from the crime scene.
So they had his DNA.
Dig it.
They knew he was dangerous. But then 14 years of silence.
Right.
No new leads.
Correct.
And then in 2004, he resurfaces. He left 4 notes this time.
Wow.
3 of them were found on little girls' bicycles, and 1 was found in a mailbox. And the notes contained taunts to police and a threat of another attack. And one of the notes actually read, "Hi, honey. I've been watching you. I am the same person that kidnapped and raped and killed April Tinsley. You are my next victim."
And again, condoms were found with the notes, and the DNA was a match. He was still out there, watching, waiting,
Yeah.
and very likely planning his next move.
So they had his DNA, they knew his MO, they knew that he was active, but they couldn't find him. I can only imagine how frustrating that would have been for everybody.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like having all the pieces to a puzzle, but not knowing how to put them together.
Right.
That's a very common frustration in law enforcement,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to cold cases.
Yeah.
But then in 2018, the case took a dramatic turn, thanks to a revolutionary tool,
Yeah.
forensic genealogy.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It really was a game changer.
Huge.
It really revolutionized investigations in a lot of ways.
How does it work?
So basically, imagine you have the DNA from a crime scene, but it doesn't match anyone in, your traditional criminal databases. So what you do is you take that DNA and you upload it to a genealogy website, like EDmatch is one of the popular ones. And these websites have vast collections of DNA profiles from people who are interested in, tracing their ancestry and learning more about their family history.
Okay, so you're comparing the unknown DNA to this massive pool of genetic information to see if there are any familial connections?
Exactly. And in April's case, the search led to 2 brothers.
Oh, wow.
So that narrowed things down considerably.
Dramatically.
And one of those brothers, John D. Miller, quickly became the prime suspect.
So after all these years, they finally had a name. What happened next?
Well, they still needed to confirm that it was him. So they obtained a discarded DNA sample from Miller, and it was a match.
Wow.
And so on July 15th, 2018, 30 years after April's murder, John D. Miller was arrested at his home. And during the interrogation, he confessed to everything: the abduction, the sexual assault, the murder. He described in detail how he had killed April in his trailer and then disposed of her body.
It must have been an incredibly emotional moment for everyone involved, especially for April's family and the community.
Absolutely. It was a mix of relief and grief. A wave of emotions washing over Fort Wayne. There were press conferences, statements from law enforcement, community vigils remembering April. But for many, it was just a sense of closure, finally knowing who was responsible and seeing him brought to justice.
You mentioned closure, but it can be complicated. What did you mean by that?
Well, closure doesn't erase the pain of loss. For April's family, the arrest and the conviction couldn't bring back their daughter. It's kind of like healing a wound. The star may fade, but it never truly disappears.
Yeah, it's a powerful analogy. And for the community, even though they had the perpetrator behind bars, there were still lingering questions, like were there things that could have been done to prevent this?
Right, and, could he have been caught sooner?
Right.
And then there's the lasting impact on those girls who found Miller's notes on their bikes. I mean, they were directly targeted, threatened. That kind of experience leaves a mark.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether the threat was actually carried out.
Yeah, and it's a reminder that the ripple effects of a crime like this go far beyond just the immediate victim.
Absolutely. It impacts families, friends, and the entire community.
Absolutely.
An entire community lived in fear for all those years.
And the April Tinsley case really brought national attention to this tool of forensic genealogy.
It did.
And it kind of shined a light on this revolutionary tool that is now helping to solve cold cases all across the country.
It really is incredible. It's like adding a whole new dimension to investigative work. Being able to trace a suspect's family tree through their DNA.
It sounds like something out of a science fiction novel, but it's real, and it's helping to bring answers to families who thought they would never see justice.
Absolutely. It's not just about solving crimes. It's about providing answers and closure and a sense of peace to those who've been affected by these tragedies.
So let's talk a little bit more about forensic genealogy. I mean, we know that it helped to crack the April Tinsley case, but how widespread is its use?
Well, it's becoming increasingly popular, and for good reason. Law enforcement agencies all across the country are starting to utilize this technology to re-examine cold cases. And we're seeing more and more success stories.
So it's like a whole new era of crime solving.
It is.
It's this blend of cutting-edge science and good old-fashioned detective work.
Exactly. It's a fascinating intersection of technology and human ingenuity.
Yeah.
And it's having a really profound impact on the world of criminal justice.
I mean, it sounds incredible, but I'm sure there are challenges.
Oh, absolutely. It's not without its complexities. One of the biggest concerns is privacy.
Okay.
When you submit your DNA to a genealogy website, you're not just revealing information about yourself, you're also revealing information about your relatives, even those who haven't consented.
So let's say I take one of those ancestry DNA tests, just to learn about my family history. I could unknowingly be contributing to a criminal investigation about, a third cousin twice removed that I've never even met.
Exactly. So it really raises some questions about informed consent. Did everyone who submitted their DNA to these databases fully understand that their genetic information could be used for law enforcement purposes?
Yeah, it's a great area for sure.
It is. And it's something that's being debated in legal and ethical circles.
Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot about data privacy in the context of, social media and our online activity, but this is your DNA.
Right.
This is your genetic blueprint being used in ways that you may not have anticipated.
It's a really complex issue. There are no easy answers. I mean, on the one hand, we have this incredible tool that can help solve crimes and bring justice to victims. But on the other hand, we have to consider the privacy rights of individuals and ensure that their genetic information is being handled responsibly.
It's a delicate balance, for sure. I mean, it kind of reminds me of other technological advancements that have raised ethical questions, like facial recognition software, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
As we develop these really powerful tools, we really have to kind of grapple with their potential implications and establish some guidelines for their use.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
And one that's really crucial to have as technology continues to evolve in such a rapid pace.
Yeah, we need to be mindful of the unintended consequences and ensure that we're using these tools ethically and responsibly.
Yeah, I agree.
So it sounds like forensic genealogy is like a powerful weapon in the fight against crime, but one that needs to be wielded carefully and with a deep understanding of its implications.
I think that's a good way to put it.
We've covered a lot of ground today. We've explored this really heart-wrenching case that haunted a community for decades. We talked about the science behind forensic genealogy and the strategies that are used. And we even touched upon the ethical considerations that come with using such a powerful tool. As we wrap up this deep dive, I just kind of wanted to get your final thoughts on the April Tinsley case.
Well, for me, it's just a stark reminder that the pursuit of justice can be a very long and arduous process, but it's always worth it. The April Tinsley case really highlights that even after 30 years, the truth can prevail, and advancements in technology combined with the unwavering dedication of law enforcement can bring closure to families and hold perpetrators accountable for their actions.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of hope, and the unwavering belief that even in the darkest of times, the light of truth will eventually shine through.
I agree.
It's been great having you.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll leave our listeners with this thought. In an era where our DNA can unlock so many secrets, how do we balance the pursuit of justice with the protection of privacy? It's a question that I think is going to continue to challenge us as we navigate this, ever-evolving landscape of technology and its impact on our lives. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the April Tinsley case. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.